McMain.
And howdy, howdy. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've got a guest co-host today, Taylor Hawkins, in the studio. Taylor, you were my first guest co-host on my very first show.
That's right. I'm excited to be back.
I don't know if I've seen you since then.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Taylor Hawkins, should I say former lobbyist now? Are you on a new career? Are we still kind of doing the lobbying thing?
I am. I'm still a little bit. So I did a lot of lobbying for the last 5 years, been my full-time career. I did government consulting work. Really enjoyed it, honestly. God provided a very cool avenue of influence, which I'm so grateful for. But recently, he shifted my focus, and I'm growing some business concerns closer to home. Some things in this area that give me a little more financial stability and flexibility for the future, I think.
You're a young man. You got to make some. You got to make some buck.
I appreciate
that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's all part of the process. We had a fun show yesterday. First Lady of Georgia, Marty Kemp, was here in studio, sitting right where you were sitting.
She's a wonderful lady.
Yeah, we're still vibing from that, right?
So excited.
Mark, you're a big deal.
Hey, I don't know about that, but I got big deal guests coming in. I'll tell you that.
I'm a come down from that. No
well, hey, no, we're excited to have you here. So what I figure we'll do, a couple little things we'll kick around for the first few minutes, and then we have a young lady named Jewel Rose. She's a local musician that will be calling in, learning about her, and as we like to do with this, we're going to play a couple of her songs. She's really good. I've listened to Baptize Me was the one I listened to last night. Chastity,
yes,
that is good stuff. Yeah.
Wonderful little local
boy,
artist.
I am
so
just,
excited.
When we bring in these local musicians, I am blown away as to how good their music is.
She is really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have her.
I'm going to have to admit, because what I do, I realize, hey, these are not Nashville icons, right? These are not nationwide stars. And so I always kind of lower my expectations. And then when they start playing their songs, I'm like, this is as good as anything.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we are, once we kind of help get them out there, then they come back to us and appreciate.
I thoroughly enjoy doing this on the Marc McMain Show. And look, after all, we are a country music station. We take a little break, a couple here with Tim Bryant at 10, Tim Bryant at 8 to 10, Marc McMain 12 to 2, where we talk. But we're a country music station, so what better thing to do than give a voice to some of these up-and-coming rising stars. Second guest will be a gentleman, Chuck Toney with C. Toney Communications. He's a speechwriter. He's got a great resume. He and I were just talking a second ago. We're going to learn a lot from Chuck and what he's done. He's done some really cool things. And then Taylor, in the second hour, I have curated a bunch of topics, and I know you have some stuff. There's a myriad of things that you and I can choose, and we'll kind of delve through those from the 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock hour. But the big question right now, did you watch the big game last night?
I saw the clips from it, but man, I was busy, so I hated that I couldn't watch every second of it. You have to tell me. What did you think?
I watched the last, with the Bulldogs not being in it, I still am a college football fan, but I watched the last 10 minutes. And congratulations to Indiana. That's exciting to go from really non-relevance. I don't even think people were planning to be ranked, much less make it to the playoffs, much less win the championship game.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Big surprise for a lot of people, including Indiana.
Well, a little bit of drama there with Carson Beck being a former Georgia Bulldog, and then he entered the transfer portal, goes down to Miami and becomes quarterback. So I know there's some angst and animosity amongst Bulldogs fans. At the end of the day, I remember these are just young men out there trying to make a living, do their deal, and have fun and make money, at which they can now in college football. But the Indiana story is really, really a fun story. And it's not just the players, it's their coach. This guy is a character.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. I've seen some clips of him, and man, he's his own guy.
He is his own guy. He's got kind of a little bit of an edge to him, a little full of himself, but it's fun, right? But, what better way to back it up than going and winning a natty? And so it was fun. Good for Indiana. Never saw that one coming, that's for absolute sure. Went to the Barrow County GOP last night. Got to hang out with a couple of my old buddies there. TJ Sisk, who's the chairman of the Barrow County GOP. Have you met TJ yet?
I have. TJ's a great guy.
Young man, yeah. Doing great things with Barrow County. And he had Clark Dean, candidate for governor, as one of his guest speakers, and Greg Dolezal, who is a Georgia State senator running for lieutenant governor. Those were the two speakers last night.
That's right, man. They had some heavy hitters. That's awesome.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, and that's why I tell the listeners, if you want to know what is on the horizon politically, go visit your county parties. Because what you're going to see at these county parties, whether it's in Oconee, Clark, Barrow, Morgan, Walton, Greene County, these candidates running for office, not just local offices, which is critically important, your commissioners and your state reps, but your state senators and then your U.S. races, your national, United States Senate candidates will be coming through.
Yeah. Let me riff on this for just a second,
Yeah.
Mark. We can come back to this. This is actually something that's very important to me. Is there's a lot of people on the right who are unfortunately adopting a bit of a victimhood mentality these days. They sit at home watching, Fox News or Newsmax for a long time. And look, it's good to be involved, knowledgeable about the issues. But God has not given all of us here at the local level in Georgia stewardship over those decisions that are making in D.C. So while it's good to be knowledgeable, if you spend 20 hours, 30 hours a week absorbed in what's going on in D.C., it can get to be pretty victimizing because, look, at the end of the day, you don't have an impact there. But what things like getting involved in your local GOP do is it gives you an outlet for some of that frustration to realize, hey, there are actually real people at the local level that I can impact. And this is an area God has given me stewardship over.
Yep.
And so then your circle of influence and your circle of concern converge. And if you think about that as a Venn diagram, where those things converge should be where we spend most of our time. And honestly, one of my biggest concerns is with the rise of social media, and the more people are consuming media, the more people tend to be aware of things they can't change. And so that's why I'm a huge proponent of making sure that we're aware of the things that we can change. And look, our local officials and those who are running for local offices, that's a key way we can be involved in taking our country back.
That's a great point because, if you sit and stew over the news, or if you sit there and stew over the things that Marc McMain's saying on the Marc McMain Show, that only gets you so far. You should get involved, and there's
that's actually what I think is kind of separates this show, Mark. Is like you have on a lot of local people. You're keeping people informed of what's happening in their backyard. That's totally different.
And you know what's funny, because we do want to bring in people that are main show. That only gets you so far. You should get involved, and there's
that's actually what I think is kind of separates this show, Mark. Is like you have on a lot of local people. You're keeping people informed of what's happening in their backyard. That's totally different.
And you know what's funny, because we do want to bring in people that are leaders in the community. And I tell people it's not even just elected officials, and it's not just candidates. It's people that are making our community operate in function, whether it's in a business capacity, whether it's a voice of faith, whatever it may be. And so, but getting involved is so critical. Your county parties is a great place to go, especially if they're grassroots, if they do stuff, if they give you an opportunity to actually do things that move the needle. So you can be aware of an event, not happy with it. You can either get frustrated or you can go do something about it.
Exactly. And there's other ways to be involved too. I mean, if you take even just 50% of that time that most people spend on the news or on social media, you go invest that in your local community, whether it's the GOP, whether it's a local church, whether it's a food bank. There are people, real people in your community that need your presence. And this is what I get back to about victimhood is like instead of spending that time focusing on things that end up making you feel like a victim, because at the end of the day you can't affect them, why don't we steward better and have a better understanding of what God has given us in our local community? You can change lives with not that much influence, with not that much time spent. And once you do it, it's a heady drug. Having an impact is a bit of a heady drug, and it's not a bad thing.
Right.
And you can get involved and change people's lives at the local level through church, food bank, getting involved, sacrificing for others. And man, that is the opposite of victimhood. That's empowerment. And then I think we could see a transformation at the local level if people in the conservative movement preached this message of being involved, being present. Turn off the fear porn, turn off the television, make sure that what you're listening to is building you up and is forming your biblical worldview of how to engage your community. That's so much more.
Can you imagine, Taylor, if just 20% of the people did what you just described? If 20% of the people got involved?
I think we'd see a revival. Because
it'd be incredible.
That's putting hands and feet to the gospel at the end of the day. I'm a Christian. It's the most important thing in my life. And I want to help equip other people to say, like, what does this look like in practice? This is not a dead faith. This is a living, breathing, vibrant thing that we have, this relationship with God.
Yep.
And we should give feet to that in our local community.
You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. Guest Taylor Hawkins. Taylor, that's a lot of wisdom for a 26-year-old man. Am I right? Are you 26?
26, that's right.
You're wise beyond your years,
I'm
young
blessed.
man.
Very blessed.
All right. That's good stuff. It is. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have a young lady. Her name is Jewel Rose. She is a local musician, and we're going to play a couple of her songs Baptize Me, which I listened to last night. That is fantastic. And the next one is Small Town Girl. Chastity, did you listen to both of those?
I listened to both, and the listeners are going to absolutely love it. My favorite is Baptize Me, and I think we could even put that on our Sunday morning programming.
Yeah, because we do the Sunday morning gospel, right?
Yeah.
And her music is kind of a meld between, this is, let's see, what does it say here? I guess it's country, a little bit of storytelling. She even says a little bit of classic rock and pop kind of gets introduced in, but it's country. Who does it remind me of? When I listen to the Baptize Me, what's the young lady, the Nashville star, Lainey?
Oh, Lainey Wilson.
Kind of, isn't it similar?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It has
Ella
that.
Langley. Yep. Same thing.
Yeah.
Love that little vibe.
That's
to
good
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. We come back, young lady Jewel Rose, local musician, and we're going to play a couple of her songs. Stick around.
AI now touches nearly every part of life, from writing articles to even driving cars. But it raises a deeper question. If we created AI, where did our intelligence come from? The Bible says it's a gift from God. He gave us the ability to think, reason, and make sense of the world. Some assume Christianity is just blind faith, believing something is true because the Bible says so. But that's not the case. Genuine faith invites tough questions. It engages the mind. As one pastor said, you don't have to give up your intellect to trust the Bible. You have to give up your pride. Real intelligence isn't just logic or knowledge. It's knowing the God who made you and loving Him with every part of who you are, including your mind. This is Bryant Wright. Really, Bryant Wright, not AI, speaking right from my heart.
Seeking spiritual truth? RightFromTheHeart.org has resources just for you.
Hey, this is attorney Bart Bitton with Bitton & Bitton. I live and work right here in Monroe, Georgia, and I am proud to serve this area. If you've been hurt in a car accident, you don't need some out-of-town lawyer that treats you like a number. You deserve a local lawyer you can trust, someone who lives here, works here, and takes care of people. So remember this, if you're ever in a car accident, be smart, call Bart. Bitton & Bitton, local lawyers you can trust.
When it comes to tasty treats, the only place you need to be is Stone Mountain Pecan Company. Offering high-quality Georgia pecans, other nuts, dried fruits, coffees, and candies, Stone Mountain Pecan has it all. And the best part, it's all online at stonemountainpecan.com. Or take it all in person and visit their country store on Highway 78 in Monroe. Stone Mountain Pecan Company. Something for everyone. Eat well, be happy.
Have you been putting off auto repairs? Do you want a body shop you know and trust? Go see Auto Correct Collision. Auto Correct is a family-owned and operated collision center with over 45 years of experience. Their equipment and training exceed industry standards. No repair is too big or small. Ask about the special drawings and mention this ad for a discount. Visit Auto Correct Collision at 409 Mayfield Drive or call them at 770-207-1241.
And welcome back to the Marc McMain Show. Also, we are better known as a music DJ show now because we've had so many young, up-and-coming, talented artists, and our next guest is no exception, Jewel Rose. Jewel, thanks for joining us today.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is kind of fun. Chastity and I both listened to some of your music last night on your website. Great job on your website, by the way. Made it really easy to learn about you and find your songs that you have written and that you've performed. But tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. Where do you live, Jewel?
I currently live in Bethlehem. I'm originally from Monroe, though. I have been singing and playing my guitar since I was about 13 years old. I started in church music, and I was a worship leader up until about age 23. So I've been all over Georgia playing and performing at churches. But then I pivoted and started doing gigs and venturing out to other things, and I've been all the way to Nashville and recorded with a producer out there, and that's the songs that we're going to be listening to today that I'm so excited about. That is just fantastic. Now, what church do you go to? Where were you the music leader? Grace Monroe.
Grace Monroe, yeah. Okay, well, and keep in mind, our radio station, we cover Barrow, Walton, Morgan, Oconee, Clark, Green, and beyond. So we hit a lot of different people, a lot of different churches. Tell our listeners, too, how would you describe, and I've got notes here, but it's probably better for you to say that, how would you describe your type of music? What style is it, and who do you most resemble?
Well, I would say the people that have inspired me the most is people like Miranda Lambert, Chris Stapleton, and especially Casey Musgraves. That cinematic country kind of sound is kind of what I'm leaning towards moving into the future. But I also really love classic country music, so it's kind of like a hodgepodge of all of that. But at the end of the day, I'm really just play guitar and sing an acoustic performer. It's just me when I'm going out to shows and performing. So it's also like I focus a lot on love songs, and I love to write about that. That's like my favorite thing to write. So that's pretty much the best way I can describe it.
And so when you go perform, you don't have a band. It's just you, guitar, and you're singing.
Correct. It's just all me.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to this. Now tell us the song that we're going to play first. What we're going to do is we're going to play 2 songs, and then but I want you to go ahead and tell us about these songs. Let's start with Baptize Me. Tell us how this song came about and what it means to you.
So Baptize Me in Summertime, a few years ago, I was sitting in my closet writing, and it was inspired by kind of dreaming about what love would look like if it came in and it was perfect and it washed away all the bad relationships from the past. And it's about awakening and being more mature and looking at love from a higher perspective. And experiencing that for the first time. Meeting someone that, even though I'm older now, like feeling like I'm 17 again. You'll hear that in the song. But yeah, it's a really intimate love song that came from, honestly, the bottom of my heart.
That's excellent. What about Small Town Girl? Where did this one come from? Is this a story about you, or?
Yeah, this is a story about me. It's kind of my anthem song. It's kind of dealing with the insecurity that I've always dealt with of, like, imposter syndrome. I've had a calling on my life to do music for a really long time, and, growing up, dealing with that calling and, like, figuring out, okay, what can I do to fill that role, and just not always feeling up to par, or like that I look the part when I compare myself to other people, because we do that as artists. And so it's just kind of reclaiming who I am and being proud of where I come from, and also speaking to where I'm going with my music.
So we're going to do this a little bit different. What we're going to do is and you did a perfect job of queuing these up. We're going to play these 2 songs. I want you to stay on the line. Then when we come back, I want you to tell our listeners where you're going to be performing next. If they want to learn more about you, how do they find out? If they want to buy an album, download your music, go to your website, all that kind of stuff. So we'll do that after we play these 2 songs. So stick around, Jewel. 2 songs coming up: Baptize Me in Summertime and Small Town Girl.
Sprinkle me with a soft rain, lay me back in your arms. a small town girl.
Man, Jewel, that's good stuff. I can see you headlining somewhere big time in the near future. Congratulations, both of the songs. Very good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was good stuff, right, Chastity?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Jewel, tell us, our listeners, if they want to see you in person, are you performing at any of the venues coming up in the near future?
All right, so the perfect thing to do is go to my website, jewelrosemusic.com. I spell Jewel, Jewel, jewelrosemusic.com. On there, I have a list of events that I'm going to be doing in the near future. I perform with Downtown Monroe all the time for their events. So they've got a Monroe Market that they do every Saturday morning. So you can come see me at those. The next one I'm doing is February 14th. And I'm also going to be at Oak and Vine, that winery that's right there in Monroe. It's a fairly new establishment. I'm going to be there on Saturday, March 14th. Those would be some places to see me in the near future. And you can also check out more videos of me singing on Instagram, TikTok, especially YouTube. And it's all at Jewel Rose Music. So that is the best way to connect with me there.
That's fantastic, Jewel. We wish you the best and keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. Take a quick break. We come back. Chuck Tony of C. Tony Communications. Stick around.
Madison Flooring, located at 1167 Eatonton Road in Madison, is your full-service and professional installation center for all kinds of flooring, from tile, carpet, laminate, wood. They even do showers. They have granite and quartz countertops. All military, police, firefighters, and teachers ask for your discount. Madison Flooring is locally owned and operated. For knowledgeable and friendly service, call 706-431-5152.
Keep your vehicle looking and running like new with help from the Wow Express in Monroe, offering a state-of-the-art drive-through vehicle car wash that includes free vacuums, window cleaner, and so much more. Be sure to check out their unlimited wash club that saves you money. Open 7 days a week at 911 North Broad Street in Monroe and their second location at 242 North Broad Street in Winder. To learn more, go to wowwashandlube.com.
Are you looking for new tires? Well, look no further than Madison Car Care. They have the largest selection and you'll always get the best price. They also handle a wide range of auto repairs, from the small things like oil changes and wiper blades to the big things like suspension, parts, and radiators. They offer all kinds of accessories, from toolboxes to bed covers, side steps, and they even install those awesome ranch hand bush guards. Give them a call at 706-342-4774 or stop by at 1040 Confederate Road in Madison.
Welcome back, Marc McMain. Our next guest, Chuck Toney of C. Toney Communications. Chuck, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, I was doing my prep, as I do, and digging in your background. You've done some pretty neat things. So as we get into this, first tell us, how did you get into the communications world, and tell our listeners what that means, what you do.
Yeah, it's a good question. So double English major. Got an undergraduate degree at Presbyterian College in South Carolina. Got a master's.
Good
at Clemson.
Start, having a command of the English language if you're going to be in communications. Yeah.
Go Blue Hose, by the way, Presbyterian College. And probably at the time intended to get a PhD and be a faculty guy and just do that and read and write and do all that. Kind of got tired of being in school. Had always been a newspaper guy. Now you got to remember, long before you were alive, this is the late 80s. Right, so newspapers were a thing, and I'd always been a newspaper guy. So got a newspaper job over in Forsyth County, weekly newspaper. Loved it, and kind of moved around. Was in Northeast Georgia at a newspaper in Habersham County, and then my hometown, Franklin County. Was editor of my hometown newspaper there, the Franklin County Citizen, and loved it. I heard y'all talking about local government. Very much agree with everything I heard you say about local government and where stuff really, where the rubber meets the road, where things really happen, and really got fascinated and learned a lot about zoning and policy and procedure and all that kind of stuff. There was a local state senator named Don Johnson who did some good things for my little rural county and a lot of rural counties in Georgia, and he and I, our families had known each other for generations, and we became, I think we had a good professional relationship.
Yeah.
And, I've got 3 young adult sons. They're in their early 30s now. Wow. And I've always told them, you're always auditioning, even when you don't know it.
Sure.
And Don Johnson ran for Congress, got elected for Northeast Georgia District, the old 10th District, in 1992, and took me to D.C. as his press secretary.
So you had to pack up and move. I mean, you had to live there.
Yeah. And obviously, great experience. I went from Livonia, Georgia, and a weekly newspaper editor of circulation of 2,000.
Yeah.
To the nation's capital.
To the nation's capital. What year was that?
92. He was elected in 92, so I went in January of 93.
So Newt Gingrich was part of it.
Newt Gingrich was at the time the only Republican in the delegation. 94 was the contract with America.
Yeah.
So 94, if you remember that history, 94 was the contract with America.
Yep.
Don was what no longer exists, a Southern moderate Democrat.
Democrat, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Not a thing.
Yeah.
But that's what he was. And so we were caught up in that. And
would he have played nice with Newt back at the time? Or what was their relationship back then?
Newt, being the only Republican, Newt was a little bit of an outlier.
Right.
I had experience with his staff and with him personally. I had a good friend who worked for and traveled with Representative Gingrich for many years. But that whole contract with America was sort of building and sort of, I don't know how much science there is in political science, but there's a little bit of math. Don won 54% of the vote in the 10th district. Bill Clinton won 37%.
Interesting.
We're a 17-point. We're behind everything that President Clinton did. We had to talk about it either in favor or it became the sort of litmus test of everything.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great experience. My wife was actually an art teacher. We didn't have kids at the time, and so when I went to D.C., she stayed to finish the school year.
Okay.
And which was tough. But also just dive into it, right?
Yeah.
You're just there,
right?
And then she moved up, and so we called it a field trip. We were never going to stay there forever.
Yeah, but what an experience!
But it was an amazing experience, and I learned in doing that so back to your question, I like being an advocate. I like writing editorials at the newspaper. I like trying to convince people. I like trying to persuade people. One of the things I say when I work with clients in my communication strategy business, I have this little placard, and it says, I've spent the past 40 years or so trying to figure out how do people access, assess, and act on information.
Yeah.
How do people access, assess, and act on information? The access part has changed.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's not a big deal to me because I'm interested in the assess part. When I'm working with the client to tell your story and develop your message, is it compelling in a way that gets people then to act on it in a way that we want them to? And so I work with almost exclusively nonprofit organizations.
When I see at one point in your career, you were the assistant to 2 University of Georgia presidents. Was that before the congressional experience?
After.
Okay, tell us about that.
Left D.C., came back to Livonia, where I'm from. Had a 6-month-old baby at the time. My wife got a teaching job, so she went back to teaching. I stayed home with the baby and tried to find a job. And a buddy of mine told me they were hiring at Clemson in the what you would call public relations office. It's called Public Affairs News Service. And I'd got my master's there. And even though I grew up in the height of the late 70s, height of the Georgia-Clemson football rivalry, I loved being at Clemson.
Yeah.
I loved that university and that academic experience. So I applied for the job and I was hired there and I worked there for 4 years. And that's when I saw that Michael Adams, who had been president of UGA for about 18 months at the time, was looking for a speechwriter. And I'm thinking, I'm a double English major. You're going to pay me to read, write, and argue? Like, don't tell anybody. I might pay you. And he hired me into that role.
And would you be speech writing just for him? Or for the whole
primarily
staff?
for him, but also for other senior. I think 2 things happen. One is that if you're a really smart dean or a senior administrator or a vice president, you want to reflect the president's messaging.
Yeah.
So people would come to me and get sort of source material, and then others also asked me to write for them.
Okay.
Hank Huckabee, you may remember, was chancellor of the University System of Georgia, was a vice president at UGA. He was budget director for the state for many years. I consider this a great honor. When Hank was inaugurated as the chancellor, he asked me to write his speech.
Wow.
As chancellor of the system.
That is what.
I also wrote the remarks for the chair of the board of trustees for that same ceremony.
Do you write your own speeches, Taylor, or does it just come off the top of your head?
I do. No, I mean I do better extemporaneously. I feel like than when I've prepared sometimes, but preparation is still.
Well, Taylor, let me give you my card. I can hook you up with a guy who knows that. So that role at UGA grew into an expanded role in the president's office proper. There was a chief of staff and 3 assistants, and we each had much like a legislative structure. Right? We had areas. I was the liaison back to the public affairs vice president, which is where I was originally housed at UGA, although my responsibilities were almost exclusively in support of the president directly. And then also I was liaison to the senior vice president for finance and administration. The fascinating thing about that was not the budget part, because I ain't good at that, but the campus construction. To work with the university architects and be in on a project from the very beginning, and for me to ride around the UGA campus now and say, oh yeah, Bolton Dining Commons, I was on that. The Science Learning Center, I was on that. That part of it was really fascinating. The great thing about being on campus is you get to learn stuff, right? Yeah. Really smart people doing really good stuff. And also I believe we're all mission people, and being a part of something that's making the world better and improving people's lives is really important to me.
Along the way for you, teachers, professors that maybe were a big impact influence on you?
At Presbyterian College, I had an English professor. So I mistakenly started off as a biology major. I don't know what that was about.
You're like, that, not my wheelhouse.
Sort of Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom kind of gee whiz, what I thought. And then I took chemistry and genetics in the same semester, and neither one of those went particularly
chemistry
well.
Was not my wheelhouse either.
So I'm a qualitative person, not a quantitative person. And so I sort of crawled back across the little quad to the English department and said, can I come back? And they're like, yes, come back. So my advisor and mentor was a man named James.
This is not my wheelhouse either.
So I'm a qualitative person, not a quantitative person. And so I sort of crawled back across the little quad to the English department and said, can I come back? And they're like, yes, come back. So my advisor and mentor was a man named James Skinner.
My wheelhouse either.
So I'm a qualitative person, not a quantitative person. And so I sort of crawled back across the little quad to the English department and said, can I come back? And they're like, yes, come back. So my advisor and mentor was a man named James Skinner, who just was, what was the Robin Williams movie about teaching at a private school? They did Captain, My Captain. Dead Poets Society.
Certainly is scholastically strong as my older son. When he wrote a paper, you couldn't wait to get to the next page. It was that good, right? It was so, and so that just told me, right? this is something either you've got in your DNA or you don't. Quick question. You listen to the Marc McMain Show. Our guest, Chuck Tony, C. Tony Communications, joined by Taylor Hawkins, who's co-hosting with me today. When you are doing this, because these are two sides of your brain. You have the analytical side, which is data extraction, strategy, and then you have the creative side, which is the storytelling and the writing. And how do you manage that?
I'm more on the storytelling side, to be honest.
That's your wheelhouse.
With you. Yeah, that's my wheelhouse. I tell people talk about, do I do marketing? So here's my little, marketing is what you pay for. Communications is what I get you for free.
Okay.
Right? Marketing is all the brand, the online stuff, the advertising buys, and all that's important, and it's part of it. But I have colleagues that I bring in to do that part of it. I'm all about, what is your story? What compelling story can we tell about your organization? How do you distinguish yourself in the market? I mean, the numbers vary, but there's something like 350 registered 501c3s in Athens, Clarke County alone. Because you got all these kids at the university who have a great idea and start. So there's a lot of competition for that money. And I don't consider myself a fundraiser. That's not the first part of it for me, but it's clearly an important part of it, right? I was executive director of the Food Bank of Northeast Georgia for 2 years. I've served on the board of ESP. I've served on the board of the YWCO. I've been on the Rotary Club. If you're a nonprofit organization, that's where you get your money, right? And so what I want to do is help them tell that story that, again, moves people and compels people to support in whether it's financially, volunteering, in any other way.
And going back to the speech writing, Taylor, too, how important is that, right? You look at our elected officials and they deliver a great speech, and you think, man, that's just brilliant, and quite often there's somebody that put those words on paper for them.
For sure. But that's not a bad thing. You know, what Chuck does is incredible because it enables sometimes the people who are doing the most good aren't the best at communicating what that good looks like. And so to have people like Chuck who can come behind you and say, yeah, I don't think what you're doing is actually getting across. Let's change your communications. Let's change your style, change the tone, and make sure that you're able to tell the story in an impactful way so that people catch sight of the vision and then they want to be a part of it. That is so powerful. And it's something a lot of people discount, but it's incredibly powerful. I have taught speech writing at professional conferences, and I say, you know, the person you're writing for wants more than somebody to just transcribe what he or she is saying, right? Bring some value to it. Take that core message, but do something that makes it a little bit better. Improve it in some way. Organize it. Dr. Adams was great. Dr. Adams was chief of staff for Senator Howard Baker from Tennessee in the late 70s, and he wrote speeches for Howard Baker.
Wow.
Which, let me tell you, is a two-edged sword when you're right, because he appreciates the craft and the time it takes, but he also recognizes when it ain't that good.
So he's very critical of the...
Not very, but when rightly so, when he said this does not meet the standard. But he understood that role, and he was very good about giving me time. I want to hear you talk about this, and I'll take those notes, and then I'll go back and put in.
Have you ever written a speech for somebody that you realized, we talk about the natural ability to write, somebody who's a natural ability to give a speech, meaning you could write a speech for somebody and they would take it and put it on steroids, or maybe not even have to use a teleprompter, right? People that just have that ability to commit it to memory, and read it one time and they've got it here.
Yeah, there are people who want bullet points, and that's pretty much what Dr. Adams wanted. I mean, you could read what I wrote and it would be a coherent speech, but he was always working in and out of those.
Okay.
I'll tell you a funny story. The first thing I wrote for him, so I was hired in September of 1999. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a big deal per se.
Yeah.
It was probably an introduction of a speaker. The president of the University of Georgia speaks 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Okay.
If you think about, and so I've done the math. I wrote about 2,000 speeches.
Yeah. Okay.
For him and other people, right? So whatever it was a introduction of a speaker at a lecture series, whatever. And so I said, okay, how do you, we had a meeting. He said, here's what I want to say. And I wrote it, sent it in. He made some changes, sent it back. I go, never heard the man speak before except what I'd seen online.
Okay.
I go, I'm sitting there in the audience. He starts talking. He ain't saying a word. He ain't saying a word that's on the page that I wrote.
He's just going off on his own.
And it was probably 45 seconds that felt like 7.5 minutes for me. Forehead prickle sweat. Like I'm really in the probationary period here. I got no protection. And then he just smoothed right into it.
Wow.
And I learned he was going to do that. He was comfortable, very comfortable at the podium.
So he's ad-libbing the first portion.
He's ad-libbing. He's just winging it, but it's very fluid and but I'm dying, right? Like I am. But I realized that he was almost always going to do that.
Well, like what I've seen you speak many times at the GOP, and you'll come up and you'll speak. You'll have a 5 to 7 minute, dissertation that you give. Are you preparing that, or is that just coming from the top?
Usually the ones I've given at the GOP have just been right off the top of my head. It's been something I've been thinking about. But Chuck, this is really something I'm actually very passionate about, is not just public speaking, but is communication in general. I feel like oftentimes people's ability to communicate has not been something they've honed in their life. So they themselves are a deeper person than their communication style basically shows them off to be. So for our listening audience, what do you think are some of the important ways the average person out there can think about communication or can work on their communication to make them a better communicator?
I'm a word nerd, so I'm always going back to the Latin and Greek roots. And so communication, that COMM root, it has to do with relationships and with sharing. Mm. And so I think understanding that you're building a relationship with somebody when you talk to them. You said something earlier that resonated with me. There's lots of ways we can communicate with people today, but there is still something deeply primal about one person looking at another person and talking out loud to them.
I'm sure.
And so, for me, it always backs up to what is your goal? What is your intent? I tell clients this all the time. When I left UGA, I went to work for Jackson Spalding, which is marketing communications agency. And one of my colleagues and I, the business development guy, we were in a pitch meeting with somebody. I can't even remember who it was. And we were talking, and I don't know where this came from. I just said right out loud, tactics are fun and strategy's hard.
Yeah.
Tactics are fun, strategy's hard. And my colleague looked at me, and later he said, why have you been holding on to that? And I'm like, I don't know where it came from. The point behind that is that people want to start doing stuff, and organizations that I work with want to start doing stuff, and that's fine. You probably ought to do some stuff, but you better figure out why you're doing it. So for me, it would be spend some time in whether you're talking about yourself or whether you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about your organization, whether you're talking about your church, what is the message that you want to convey? And then build back from that. I think people go about it backwards sometimes. They start talking without thinking about, what am I trying to accomplish here? What is the goal?
That's powerful.
You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. We come back. We're going to continue our conversation with Chuck Tony, C. Tony Communications, and my buddy Taylor Hawkins. Stick around.
Ready to grow your small business and reach thousands of new customers? Say hello to Town Values Magazine, formerly MTM Shopper, proudly serving the community for 22 years. Every month, thousands of magazines are mailed directly to homes in Walton, Oconee, Barrow, Rockdale, Newton, Gwinnett, and beyond to further expand your reach. Our magazine is packed with valuable coupons and services offered, helping families save money while supporting the community they love. We specialize in local direct marketing that works, building your brand, driving sales, and connecting you with the customers who matter most. Plus, we're online at townvalues.com and on Facebook and Instagram, giving your business even more exposure in print and digital. Ready to reserve your space in the next edition? Call Liliana at 770-267-6650. Town Values Magazine. Local, trusted, powerful. Helping businesses grow and families save.
Roll-Off Systems of Statham, they're on a roll. They offer dumpsters in all sizes, trash compactors, porta potties, and new combo cans. Existing sites are new building sites. Trash and waste disposal, it's their business. Locally owned and operated. Call Roll-Off Systems today. 770-725-ROLL. That's 770-725-ROLL. Or go to rolloffsystems.com.
Big news, Georgia drivers. DJ's Collision is on the move and is proud to announce their brand new home in Madison. After many years of service and social circle, the same team you know and trust is back with a fresh new look and location to serve you best. From flawless paint jobs to complete bodywork, DJ's Collision is where your car gets a second chance to shine. Check out their brand new location in Madison at 1231 Woodcraft Road. That's DJ's Collision. Give them a call at 770-760-8214.
Are you looking for custom t-shirts, golf shirts, or uniforms for yourself or work? What about a family reunion, a fundraiser, or sports team? Whatever you're looking for, Chris and Debbie at Blue Hound in Monroe can help you. Real Country uses Blue Hound for our golf shirts and t-shirts. They do quality work and they're great folks. Blue Hound is located at 111 East Washington Street in Monroe. Go by and see what they can do for you or call 404-307-3664. That's 404-307-3664. Tell them April sent you.
And welcome back to the Marc McMain Show. Taylor, I didn't realize when we had a speechwriter coming in today we'd have this much fun. But with the double major, I'm trying to be sure I enunciate all my words properly. I'm trying to be very, very precise.
We better watch what we say.
I know.
I don't proofread for free anymore. So
I'm going to get a sheet after the show with a bunch of red marks on it and say, hey, bad language, bad English. Chuck, tell us about C-Tony Communications. So where was the impetus for you then to go from, hey, I'm writing speeches, I'm doing this stuff, to I want to have my own business and I want to help people, help companies, help organizations?
Yeah. So left UGA in 2014, went to work for Jackson Spalding Marketing Communications Agency, learned a lot there about sort of client relationships and business.
They have big clients.
They're a big deal.
Yeah.
They're a big deal. And great people, great organization. I could do a whole 30 minutes on how that company was founded. And I mentioned earlier, I think we're all mission people. The idea of service in some way, of making a difference, was what was great about working at Clemson and UGA. You feel like you're making a generational difference, right?
Absolutely.
And so I just feel that very strongly. And the opportunity to lead the food bank in Northeast Georgia came up. And I was hired in December of 2018. Spent the first part of that next year kind of learning the business and the organization, and then we needed a new strategic plan. So we spent that, contracted with the Vincent Institute at UGA, who do a great job. I do that kind of work too, but they did a great job, and came up with a strategic plan. So remember your calendar. The last week of February 2020, my board approved a new strategic plan.
Oh, boy.
What happened 2 weeks later?
Yeah, COVID.
The world shut down.
Right? So you're an organization that's get volunteer hours coming in to sort food and things like that were the equivalent of about 24 full-time employees for the food bank.
Wow.
Nobody's coming in the building.
Yeah.
Right? So all those I say this, and I hope you'll take this joke in the right way. I count that year as a dog year. That was like 7 years.
Yeah.
Demand for food went up 40% in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because people lost their jobs.
Tough times.
Right.
Yeah.
So staff was great. We didn't have to ask for money. We just started receiving money.
People are just
And
pitching
people
in.
knew it. People knew people need food, right? Core value, core necessity. Work through that year, rewarding, exhausting, all those things. Just needed to take a deep breath, think about who I was, who I wanted to be, and what I wanted to do. Did some part-time jobs. My wife and I had sold our house and moved from Oconee County to the east side of Athens, so we fortunately had a little financial nest egg there. And in September of 2021, I literally was sitting on the couch one night, and I looked at my wife and I said, is there a way I can do what I love to do and help people in organizations I respect and admire create their unique stories and share those stories with audiences that matter to them?
Yeah.
That's been formulated over the year. I didn't say it that way then, but I like the way that sounds. But that's what I do. And she said, "Yeah, there is a way we can do that." And so I went to my attorney, created C-Tony Communications LLC, and I think two things. I think I have a native talent for this. I think I understand how to tell stories and how to work with organizations, how to help them create their stories. But if you want to start that kind of business in Athens, Georgia, it's really good to work in the president's office at UGA for 15 years.
That's a great...
Because you meet a lot of people.
Yeah, connectivity.
People see your work. My work was on display. And so I just started trolling the boards of nonprofits in Athens, and I knew 3 people on every dadgum board.
Yeah, right.
And I just said, hey, I've started this business. If y'all need any help with communication strategy, crisis communications, fundraising, messaging, anything. And that's how I got my first jobs. I'm no business person. There's a stratum of the nonprofit world in Athens. ESP's one, the food bank is one that has budget capacity for a full-time communications marketing person on staff.
Okay.
So they're not they're not my audience. I mean, I'd love to help them. Then you kind of get then you get my wheelhouse, if you look at that. Then you get
people that can't afford to hire a full-time
Athens
guy.
Community Council on Aging, client. Athens Area Community Foundation, client. YMCA, YWCO, clients. Books for Keeps, client. Those were my people. Athens Area Homeless Shelter, client, right? They don't have a communications staff person. They have communications needs, right? And so that's been a real source. And now it's to the point where now I'm getting referrals from.
Are you dipping back in?
Chastity said, tell me about your website. I said, don't have one. Don't need one.
Don't need one.
Don't want one, to be honest with you. I'm not really I don't want cold call kind of stuff.
Right.
I want relationship based, and I want to pick my clients.
Are you dabbling back into the political realm, or
no,
sir. So you're not getting involved in that? Yeah.
Only informally and only for good friends. But I made a decision when I started this that I was not going to do paid political consulting work. Yeah. So I do the basic message development, the tactics before the strategy before tactics. What is your story? And I love that process. I love getting board and staff and volunteers and donors in a room, and waving my arms around. And I'm a big proponent. I keep the Post-it note people in the big Post-it note. I keep them in business, right? I love the big Post-it note. I love writing the stuff on the wall. I love all that. And then I bring all that stuff home and I stick it up on the walls around our house. And my wife says, "How long is that going to stay up there?" And I'm like, "Till I figure it out, sweetheart."
Looks like a crime scene investigation.
It does. Like they're just Post-it notes everywhere in our little house, and I'm making connections and doing all that kind of stuff. And so then it come out with what I call either key messages or strategic messages. What are we trying to say consistently over time about the organization? Mm-hmm. It's not a script, right? I don't want it to be a script because everybody needs their own voice. But by golly, everything you say and everything we do, you better be able to tell me which strategic message you're supporting. Yeah. Because otherwise, we're into tactics for tactics' sake, which is ephemeral and not gonna have any impact.
Every word counts. Every message. Yeah.
Every word counts, and everything needs to be intentional.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be intentional. And the strategy part, when I was at Jackson Spalding, we called the brand development, strategy development process an excavation. And it was led by a guy who's a good friend of mine and a remarkable communicator named Marc Martin, worked at Coca-Cola for years and the Special Olympics internationally for years. And I tell people, think about an actual excavation. It's hard work. You got to move a lot of crap to find a little bit of gold. Mm-hmm. Somebody's probably going to get hurt. Yeah. Somebody's pet project's not going to survive this because we got to make some hard decisions.
Yeah.
But if you don't make those hard decisions, you've lost your opportunity to have that effective message in that crowded market. Crisis communications, don't want anybody to have a crisis. I'm good in a crisis. I handle a broken leg better than a hangnail, right? Little things drive me crazy. I'm good on the big stuff. And so working with people in response to a crisis, but everybody knows what could go wrong in an organization. I ask people, what keeps you up at 2 o'clock in the morning? And everybody knows what that is. Well, let's deal with it now. Yeah. Let's don't deal with it in the middle of it when you've been up for 48 hours and the last good thing you had to eat was a Snickers bar, right? That's not good decision making.
Right. Yeah.
That intentional planning, Chuck, is good not only for communications but for the rest of business and life as well, isn't
it? It's business continuity. It's risk management. One of the things I love to say is the good news about bad news is that people are paying attention.
That's right. And what's interesting, too, Taylor, is this in every facet of business. So I don't care if you're a small mom and pop and you have your sales pitch that you are giving to a potential client for your service you want to offer. If you are not communicating it correctly and if you're just giving features and not what the benefits are of those features, and that's kind of what this is being sure that, like you said, your words count, that your message, and boil it down again to the small business world, oftentimes your message needs to be short and sweet. Right? Yes. You don't have 7 minutes to make a presentation. You might have 60 seconds. In my industry, you've got about maybe 2 minutes. That's the attention span of a potential client. And if your messaging is not crystal clear, on point, and well received, you're on to the next one.
Well, I'm in the sales world now, and in the sales world and in the political world where I come from, time matters. And you have to not just communicate what needs to be heard in a clear and concise manner, but you have to make sure you're communicating in a way that matters for the person you're talking to. Audience is so important. Isn't that right, Chuck?
Well, how often, too, have we seen, you've been to a GOP meeting and you've seen a politician, a candidate, vying for your vote, get up and give a speech, and 30 seconds in, you've lost them.
Yeah. They've
lost you.
The audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody cares about me as much as I care about me.
Exactly. That's right. Yep.
Right. And the other poster board, phone board thing I have that I take to clients. I heard you mention Venn diagrams. I love a Venn diagram. So my Venn diagram on the left side is what the organization wants people to know, and the other one is what people want to know. And if those circles don't overlap, you better make them overlap. Because organizations love to talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. Politicians love to talk about themselves. Do you think about what they want to know?
Well, all information has an information cost too. This is something that maybe one of the very few things people take away meaningfully from a political science degree is things like information cost and opportunity cost that people have. The high cost of information means they're not going to listen to you very long unless you give them a reason to, and you have to tell them why is it necessary that I spend the time and resources that is necessary in order to understand this message and keep listening to this person.
I work with young writers at Jackson Spalding, and I do some work with kids who are doing their college admissions essays now, which is great fun. And I say, nobody's compelled to read the next sentence.
Yeah,
you got to make it interesting. You got to make them want to move to the next sentence, to the next page, to the next.
And that's an art. Yeah. You listen to the Marc McMain Show. Chuck, in our closing minute, what is next for you guys? What is your vision, say, for the next few years? What do you want to do?
I mean, I'm always looking for new clients, and I've got some prospects out there. I was very fortunate. You got my friend Alex Patterson.
Art. That's an art. You listen to the Marc McMain Show. Chuck, in our closing minute, what is next for you guys? What is your vision, say, for the next few years? What do you want to do?
I mean, I'm always looking for new clients, and I've got some prospects out there. I was very fortunate. You got my friend Alex Patterson. Last week. So he's my anchor client. That's my biggest client, and I'm on a retainer with them, and that's been wonderful. But just more people who need help telling their story, particularly in the nonprofit realm. That's your wheelhouse. That's meaningful. That's really meaningful to me.
How do they find out about you? If you don't have a website, how do they get in touch with you?
My email is ctonycoms, all lowercase, ctonycomms @gmail.com. And I do a lot of talk about the business on my Facebook page, and it's just you can find me at Chuck Tony, Tony.
There you go, on the Facebook page, yeah. No wonder I couldn't find a website last night when I was doing my research.
I don't need one. I've thought about it, but I don't want to have to keep up with it. And
you know what I had to do? I went and found your interview with Tom Sheldon, who we've had on the show here. And it was a great interview, by the way. Tom knocked it out of the park. That's where I learned most of my content.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in today. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. We come back. Taylor and I are going to dig deep in some stuff here. And Chuck may even be listening to us and can edit us or grade us. Yeah, give us a scorecard on how we did. We'll be right back.
Oh, no.
This is Q92.3 WMOQ FM, Bostwick, Monroe, Madison. Your home for real country.
Is technology giving you a tough time at your home or business? Don't worry, Big Mountain Computers is here to help. We're your local tech experts, now open in Madison. Our white glove service ensures personalized solutions for all your IT needs. Hardware fixes, remote support, private lessons, and more. Visit us at Madison Plaza across from Ingalls or call 706-343-4184 to schedule your consultation. That's 706-343-4184. Big Mountain Computers, turning your mountains into molehills.
I've got to tell you about the best kept secret in Monroe for electric wholesale supply, Allen's Electric. Family owned and operated since 1972, Allen's Electric offers a complete line of electrical supply, wiring, breakers, bulbs, heating elements, electric motors, light fixtures, and so much more. Located at 925 West Spring Street in Monroe, stop by and see Brian and Cindy, in business for over 50 years. That's Allen Electric Supply, 770-267-5572.
Since 1979, the Tim Stewart Funeral Home family has been caring for families in their time of need. The Tim Stewart family pledges to honor your loved one with excellence in service, compassion, and will guide you in making the right decisions. To learn more about the Tim Stewart Funeral Home family, stop in at one of their 3 locations in Monroe, Loganville, and Lawrenceville. Call 770-267-2594 or go to stewardfh.com.
Hey, this is Doug.
And this is Robbie.
We own and operate Foy Tree Service.
When you need tree cutting, stump grinding, lot clearing, mulching, firewood, and more, call Foy Tree Service.
Serving Morgan County and surrounding area since 1987.
With top quality service and fair prices, we take pride in our work. and we do everything to make sure that you are a happy customer.
That's Foy Tree Service. Call us at 706-342-8733.
That's 706-342-TREE.
AI now touches nearly every part of life, from writing articles to even driving cars. But it raises a deeper question. If we created AI, where did our intelligence come from? The Bible says it's a gift from God. He gave us the ability to think, reason, and make sense of the world. Some assume Christianity is just blind faith, believing something is true because the Bible says so. But that's not the case. Genuine faith invites tough questions. It engages the mind. As one pastor said, you don't have to give up your intellect to trust the Bible. You have to give up your pride. Real intelligence isn't just logic or knowledge. It's knowing the God who made you and loving Him with every part of who you are, including your mind. This is Bryant Wright. Really, Bryant Wright, not AI, speaking right from my heart.
Seeking spiritual truth? RightFromTheHeart.org has resources just for you.
John's Supermarket in downtown Monroe is proud to serve the Walton County community for over 50 years. 3 generations of the Thompson family offering the freshest produce, quality meats, everyday essentials, and now featuring Bistro South, a quick service restaurant with freshly made Southern cuisine and ready-to-heat gourmet meals. Always proud to support local farmers and suppliers, John's Supermarket has the best meat in town and tons of weekly specials. Stop by and see them for all the ingredients, meals, snacks, sweets, gifts, and everything in between you need.
Welcome back, Marc McMain, Taylor Hawkins. That was a great interview. I learned a lot.
It's awesome.
Brilliant dude.
Chuck is an amazing guy.
Yeah. It's funny because when he talks about speech writing, which I have written some speeches for myself, I'm not a notorious speech giver, but I've given a couple. And I do struggle in the process of getting what's up in my brain down on paper, right? Mm-hmm. Because I tend to be very analytical. And so what I notice is like the first draft comes out and it's real choppy, analytical, data driven. And then after a couple of maturations, then it starts to smooth out a little bit. But for me, that's only phase 1. It's then getting that speech that you then finalize on paper. And how do you then deliver it to where it's captivating? And like he said, are you doing it in such a way that you're engaging people?
Exactly. It's so important, and that element of the human part of communication that Chuck said, I think, is absolutely vital. Realizing that there is a human to human interpersonal relationship connection that takes place when you're communicating well and when you're communicating in person. That Mark, is one of the reasons why I'm relatively, compared to some of my friends, optimistic about the age of AI. I think what AI will actually do is force us to become more human and better at the things that distinguish humans from robots. And one of those things is communication. You cannot have this interpersonal, look in the eye of a robot. It's just
never going to be an AI salesperson.
That's right.
Yeah, it's never going to happen.
There's not.
The relationship isn't there. But going back to the whole art of speech giving, taking the speech writing element that Chuck was talking about and carrying it to the next level. How often have you and I seen people that, and we're not going to list anybody, but how often have you I've seen people that are not necessarily the best at what they should be doing? Let's say they're not. Let's pick on Obama for a second. Not a good president in my book. Fantastic speech giver.
Really true.
Right?
Really true.
Great communicator.
Yeah.
And people, that was endearing. He built support on that. And then the flip side is how many people that are really good at what they do, but they aren't the best communicators. That also goes a long way.
The flip side, and that is really important. That's something I'm passionate about. I see people all the time, unfortunately, who have a great mission, or who themselves, maybe they're 10, 20, 30 years into their career of high impact, and then you put them up in front of a crowd, and they struggle to hold the crowd, and I always kind of, sitting in the back, conflicted, like, I hate this for them, because they are much more interesting than their communication style allows them to be.
They're the right person for whatever they're lobbying for or whatever they're advocating for, but it's not coming out.
Right.
And look, and I've been on both sides of that equation, me personally, where I have given speeches. I'll take the same speech and deliver it to Group A, and it's received well, and you get great feedback, and then you go to another group a week later, and it bombs.
It's so true. It's so true. It's one of the most important things, like I mentioned to Chuck, and I so appreciate him being in studio with us talking about it, but it's something people can't take for granted is the ability to communicate the things that they care about. And if you care about it, you should take time to understand, how do I talk to others about this, whether it's my call to do it in, writing or giving speeches, or, I'm a part of a nonprofit, or I'm a part of a business.
Yeah.
A lot of people, their value and their money that they make.
I just
depends
can't
on this as
emphasize
well.
enough, there's anything that our listeners take from this. If you're a small business owner, your messaging is critically important. How many times have you called a place of business to ask about their services or wares, and the person on the other line, whether it's an employee or the owner, has a tough time articulating what they do, and it just kills the whole deal. You're on to the next one.
It does.
You got to be sure that your messaging's on point, not just how you receive that phone call, the greeting, this, the comfort level of making that person feel welcome. But so if somebody calls in and says, "Hey, I'm interested in your product," what do you do? That's your chance. You got 60 seconds to make it or break it.
It's especially true now, Mark, as our culture continues to adapt and change and shift, and we just have an increasingly microwave economy, if you will, of everyone's attention span is minuscule, and you have to be able to make an impact and close the deal, if you will, on whatever you're talking about, whatever your business is, whatever thing is important to you in a short space of time.
Yep, it's all about being concise. Marc McMain Show, Taylor Hawkins, my guest. Taylor, something I wanted you to do, I had this queued up, but there's a ton of things we're going to talk about today, but your time as a lobbyist, I want you to share with our listeners. We're going to call this Lobbying 101, because sometimes lobbyists are bottled or packaged into a group of people that people look down upon. There's actually some lobbying efforts that are very valuable to our state and beyond. Give us a little bit of a Lobbying 101.
Absolutely, Mark. There's a lot of negative connotations with the term lobbying, but honestly, at the end of the day, all lobbying is influencing. A lobbyist is someone who is hired by an industry, by a company, by a corporation, or by a variety of those to influence the decision makers usually in government, but it's sometimes in a variety of sectors. But those lobbyists are basically the person who interfaces between that industry and the people regulating those industries. And that's true of every industry, but it's also true of the common man. And so a lot of nonprofits have a lobbyist representing their interests, sometimes in a variety of sectors. But those lobbyists are basically the person who interfaces between that industry and the people regulating those industries. And that's true of every industry, but it's also true of the common man. And so a lot of nonprofits have a lobbyist representing their interest. And so it's just that influence. And I think it's very important for people to understand, A, what lobbying is, but also how to do it, because there will come points in time when almost everybody is exposed to decision makers. And so understanding how to impact that decision maker in a meaningful way is, I think, very important.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of how a lobbying effort goes from A to B, or let's call it from A to becoming a bill signed into law, oftentimes, folks, if you are participating in any transaction in the state of Georgia, quite often that transaction, or if there's a new law, came about because of the efforts of a lobbying group. It could be a myriad of different subjects. We're just going to make one up, Taylor. We're going to fake one here. Let's say you own a car dealership, a small car lot, and you sell 10 cars a month on your used car lot. And let's say you identify that there is a tax, and I'm just making this up, this doesn't exist, but let's say there's a tax on used cars, tires, I don't know, so something of that nature, and you find it's detrimental to your business, it's really hurting. You could then, maybe a coalition of used car dealerships, hire a lobbying firm that will then go down to the Georgia Dome, to the Gold Dome, the Capitol, and lobby on your behalf to ask state lawmakers to remove that tax from the used cars tires. Again, I'm making up something I'm trying to be sure it's really vanilla and plain. Is that a good foundational point right there, Taylor?
It is, and that's another thing to understand is everyone, we tend to have a sensationalized view of a lot of things in life because of Hollywood, because of the impact of social media. Not all lobbying is bad. It's actually quite a common thing, and in many cases it's a good thing, because what we have in this country, we do not have a democracy. We have a constitutional republic. We are a nation of laws. Those laws matter, and how we change those laws matter. So we elect representatives to go down there to the Gold Dome, in our case here in Georgia, But the reality is they're going to be legislating on thousands of subjects. They can't possibly be expert on thousands of subjects. So when they're going to be legislating a particular sector, what we ideally want them to be making the best decision with the best information possible. And so ideally speaking, again, this is an ideal world, what lobbyists do is they provide the highest and best level of information to the decision makers in a particular government entity so that those decision makers are equipped to make the best decision. Now, it is true, we have to acknowledge it, like there are the backroom deals, there are definitely the way politics is played today, which is not the ideal, for sure, in many instances. But that doesn't mean the whole industry is bad. It also doesn't mean that the concept of lobbying is bad. It's actually very important. And to your point, I think people should know how to do it.
Well, and so once again, using my example that I gave, so let's say you are a lobbying firm and I'm the used car lot, and I have a coalition of used car dealers that we come to you and we say, hey, there's this tax. It's really hurting our business. We're trying to sell these fantastic used cars to the consumers in Georgia, but this tax is a burden. Again, none of this exists, folks. I'm making all this up. So we hire you, the lobbyist firm. You then do your data, you research, you find out all the moving parts. Then you go down and you start talking to lawmakers and legislators, and you say, hey, guys, are you aware that there's this tax? There's this something that's levied against the used car business, and it's really hurting the industry. And those lawmakers must say, man, I haven't bought a used car in years. I buy new cars because I make so much money. So I wasn't aware of this, Taylor. Thank you for educating me. Is that kind of a process how this goes?
Very, very accurate. And so often what people will find is if they get involved in policy, if they get involved in lobbying, is it's actually fairly easy to have an impact in a positive direction because your legislators are usually normal folks. And when you have a compelling story or compelling evidence of something taking place that needs to be changed, they're on board with changing it. It's actually an exciting thing. It takes some of the pessimism out of our modern day life because we think all politics is like this deep, dark swamp of Washington, D.C. It's really not. And lobbying is an important way that impacts the system. Look, again, the reality is just like every industry, the industry rises and falls on the integrity of the people inside of it. So politics definitely has a reputation. Lobbyists definitely have a reputation. There are those bad apples. But what I'm thankful for is I actually know quite a number of lobbyists here in the state of Georgia who are great people, who love the Lord, and who do their best to serve our country and our state very well.
Would it be safe to say that the heartbeat bill was promoted through lobbying?
Absolutely. And this gets back to like an understanding of what lobbying is. It's not just the industrialized sense of the term.
Yeah,
it's not
the
just
financial side.
Commercialized.
Yeah.
It's anyone who chooses to try to have an impact on a government result, on a result of legislation, etc. And so if I could talk to the audience for a moment, guys, if there's something you're passionate about, instead of just consuming media on the subject, instead of just kind of railing at the television, why don't you call up your local state representative? Why don't you sit down with them, have a cup of coffee?
Yep.
It's actually relatively easy to do, but I will say, giving a tip for communicating with your legislator. Chuck was just here talking about the importance of this. Make sure you begin with the end in mind. Make sure you know, why am I going to do this, and what are the steps I need to take to do this effectively? And one of those, you just have to understand this, is you draw more flies with honey than vinegar. And unfortunately, many people don't do themselves great credit by engaging out of a sense of anger. And look, that's why I remind people, they're normal folks. They want to do the right thing as much you want them to do the right thing.
Be calm and be sure your message is clear and be ready to land the plane.
Certainly.
Yeah, don't have a 30-minute explanation of what the problem is.
Right.
And you're right. Your local, whether it's your county commissioners, your state representatives, your state senators, these people are accessible.
Yes.
Your city council members. Oftentimes, their phone numbers are published on a website.
That's right.
So you can reach out directly to them, and that is a fantastic way to go. So one more thing before we close this segment here, Taylor, as we talk about lobbying. What are some of the things you can do as a lobbyist, and what are some of the no-nos?
Some of the no-nos are definitely looking at like where are the conflicts of interest in this situation. Make sure you are an ethical person. It's not all that complicated, to be honest with you. It gets complicated when people try to manipulate the system. But if you just understand, look, there are conflicts of interest that exist sometimes. And when those happen, making sure that you're clear about, like, I'm going to stay out of this, I'm going to stay out of that. And also making sure that you're not one of those people who plays the dirtier side of politics. I will say this, Mark, one of the things people have a misunderstanding about is money in politics. Money is a tool that maximizes the value or the character of the person using it. But at the end of the day, it's just a tool. And a lot of people can get frustrated at the money without being frustrated at the underlying circumstances or the underlying people. Decision makers, especially in government, they have a huge amount of things they have to be concerned about. And oftentimes, you'll get calls from constituents about 100 issues if you're an elected state representative or senator. You have to kind of decide, what is it in the best interest of my district to do? Some of those, the way they make those decisions are what kind of resources are involved in this decision. And one of the proxies for them to be able to make that decision is what money is at play, and are the people who want me to make this change, are they willing to kind of pony up some of their own resources? So that is one of the better ways to view why not all money in politics is a bad thing, because your legislators have to have a way to kind of parse out, okay, what actually has impact on people's lives. That's not always, looking at it through a money lens. And then the way that can be perverted, obviously, is the pay-to-play politics, where someone just says, oh, well, I'm going to do this thing because so-and-so paid me.
Which is forbidden.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
That's good. A little 101. We could probably have multiple courses in this, but it's a good front row seat. And again, there has been some good legislation that has come out of the efforts of lobbying in the state of Georgia, the Heartbeat Bill included.
Yeah. One of the beautiful things is looking at the way our state has actually been deregulating. There's still an effort on board to do that. I think we need to make more strides that direction. But other states have seen tremendous benefit from the lobbying efforts of citizens and nonprofits alike, lobbying their government to say, hey, let's reduce the red tape. Let's get back to the way our country was founded. And that's accomplished through lobbying.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Great point. And that's what we want as business owners and as consumers. If there's less regulation, making it easier to open a business, and what that means for a consumer standpoint is things will actually cost less. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show, visiting with Taylor Hawkins. When we come back, we're going to get into our first heavy-duty topic of the day. Stick around.
Looking for that perfect piece of jewelry designed just for you? At P&A Jewelers, family owned since 1976, we've been helping our customers shine for nearly 50 years. Now proudly run by second-generation brother and sister team, we specialize in custom jewelry design, expert repair work, and fine jewelry for every occasion. Visit P&A Jewelers, where family tradition sparkles. Located in Loganville beside Quick Trip, or online at shoppajewelers.com. Follow us on Facebook to see what's new.
Looking for a deal on a new 2025 Ford F-150? Then come to last year's #1 retail volume Ford dealer in the nation, Akins Ford in Winder. Hi, this is Brad Akins, and through January 31st, take $15,000 off the MSRP on remaining 2025 Ford F-150 XLTs and trimmers. Stock number 89625, MSRP 68758, with approved financing through Ford Credit and your 1995 renewer trade. Dealer retains factory rebates plus government fees. See dealer for details. Claim based on Ford's 2025 retail sales report. Visit us today at akinsford.com.
Affordable housing is just around the corner at Cimarron Park. Cimarron Park is a mobile community located on Harry Arnold Road, just off of Highway 78 in Monroe, that offers 2- and 3-bedroom homes with spacious wooded lots, lit streets, and a family-friendly atmosphere. Some homes are for sale with available financing. Call James for all the details. 404-401-1068. That's 404-401-1068. Or go to CimarronPark.com.
Ready to grow your small business and reach thousands of new customers? Say hello to Town Values Magazine, formerly MTM Shopper, proudly serving the community for 22 years. Every month, thousands of magazines are mailed directly to homes in Walton, Oconee, Barrow, Rockdale, Newton, Gwinnett, and beyond to further expand your reach. Our magazine is packed with valuable coupons and services offered, helping families save money while supporting the community they love. We specialize in local direct marketing that works, building your brand, driving sales, and connecting you with the customers who matter most. Plus, we're online at townvalues.com and on Facebook and Instagram, giving your business even more exposure in print and digital. Ready to reserve your space in the next edition? Call Liliana at 770-267-6650. Town Values Magazine. Local, trusted, powerful. Helping businesses grow and families save.
Welcome back. Marc McMain. Taylor Hawkins is here in studio with me. Taylor, Axios did a survey where they contacted some of the top potential Democratic figures that would be more than likely running for president in 2028. And some of these names are household names. You've got, of course, Kamala Harris is being considered again. AOC, Gavin Newsom is probably going to be maybe the front runner as it sits right now. You know, he's their poster child for the Democratic Party. Pete Buttigieg, I mean, I'm sure he'll throw his hat back in there. J.B. Pritzker, I don't know much about him, governor of Illinois. Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania. Remember, he was asked by the Kamala Harris campaign to be, or there was discussion that he was going to be the VP.
Yes.
And that didn't pan out. Rahm Emanuel, former mayor, Chicago mayor. Ro Khanna, he's a U.S. representative. And more. Cory Booker, that's another one names that we hear pop up. And these are just half of the 20 potential names that were surveyed by Axios, and they're asked, amongst a myriad of other questions, can a man become a woman? And only one of them said no.
You'd think this is a relatively easy question.
Yeah. Rahm Emanuel, tip our hat to him if we have to. He's the only one that said no. A man cannot become a woman.
You know, this gets back to why I'm optimistic about the Republican Party in general. The future of the Republican Party is because we are gaining ground, and you know, I'm not involved in Republican Party politics because I want to enforce my quote unquote worldview on everybody. You know, there's a lot of things that I could say about that, but I'm a Republican because I think the Republican Party does the best job of representing my values. And what the Democrats have not understood, that they are being held in ideological capture by the far left of their party. That's one thing we have to make sure we don't suffer the same thing on the right. But again, Mark, you would think this was an easy question. And it's a question that has real consequences for real people. And yet, because of the ideological capture, the far left, that vice grip that the radicals in the Democrat Party have on rhetoric right now, you can't get more than 1 out of 20 who's willing to say a man cannot become a woman.
Well, and there was a myriad of questions that were asked. Another one was whether transgender girls' sports should a boy that's turned into a girl should be allowed to play in girls' sports, which it's funny because I've said this before. I thought this was dead. I thought this was over, right? I thought this was in the past. Rearview mirror stuff, it's not. And I'm not letting go of this because it is still front and center for them. And it doesn't really say exactly who answered how, but it gave some anecdotal answers. So I'll give you an example. Rahm Emanuel was the one guy that said, yeah, hey, definitively men cannot become women. A lot of the prominent Democrats refuse to answer the questions because they don't want to go on the record.
Yep.
Right? So they're just scared of answering it.
Right.
You had Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro saying that, well, hey, in regards to boys playing in girls' sports, that should be led up to maybe local officials, saying that local officials should decide on transgender athletes' participation. Pete Buttigieg said that, talking about having compassion and fairness. So they all want to skate and give the typical political two-step. Why is this just not simple? Why is this not just concrete, simple? I guess what I'm baffled at, Taylor, is how does the radical far left have a death grip on the candidates still?
Because politics is determined by the people who show up. And the radicals in both parties are often the people who show up the most. And it's up to the sane people in the middle, if you will, but also the people, because I don't necessarily think the radicalism on the right is anywhere near like what we see on the left. But it is up to people of sound judgment to make sure that the rhetoric does not get out of control, to make sure that they police the extremes of their party and make sure that our party is headed in a direction that is on value anywhere near like what we see on the left. But it is up to people of sound judgment to make sure that the rhetoric does not get out of control, to make sure that they police the extremes of their party and make sure that our party is headed in a direction that is on value, on message for where we want to take the country. And the Democrat Party has not done that. And I don't think that's accidental. I actually think it displays where their value really is, which is that they're willing to be stolen from the legitimate winners of those trophies by men competing in women's sports. This is not a victimless crime.
Well, and the names that we just listed, too, these are the who's who of the Democratic Party. These were also the same people that refused to acknowledge that we had a crisis at our border under Joe Biden,
That's
right? They said, everything's great. They also refused to acknowledge that Joe Biden was in mental decline, which I'm never going to make fun of the man for that. Just not my. I just don't do that. It's sad what Joe Biden is and was going through, but they never acknowledged it. They said, no, hey, swept under the rug. Guy's great, brilliant. And then now after the fact, they're, oh, yeah, no, man, things weren't looking good. So now they're quiet on all this stuff. They're quiet about the border. They're quiet about the transgender issue. They're quiet about can a man become a woman. They're quiet about Joe Biden. But then over in Minnesota, with ICE going and what I say executing the will of our country and removing these violent, criminal, illegal aliens, they're loud as crap.
That's right. That's right. And it's not an accident. They do see that there is a potential here to try to paint our current administration as being unfeeling, lacking compassion. Right.
It's political opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly right. They are political opportunists in every way.
So Kristi Noem says that they have so far in Minnesota alone, or in the Minneapolis area alone, arrested 10,000 criminal illegal aliens. 3,000 of those arrests just took place in the last few weeks. Obviously, you see Tim Walz and then the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, who've been leading the charge, right? Getting all that FaceTime.
That's right.
Coming out and saying vile things about our ICE agents, putting our ICE agents in danger, demanding that they remove their mask. We know why they're masked.
Yep.
They're masked to protect their identity so that they don't get assaulted or attacked at their home, or that their family members do.
Exactly.
They're creating a situation that is extremely dangerous. Look, it is dangerous enough to ask these agents to go and perform this mission.
Right.
They're not dealing with nice people.
Right.
These are people that have violent criminal histories. Now you're adding this extra layer of stress. There's riots taking place. You're emboldening the protesters to take violent action against the ICE agents. There has to be culpability somewhere with this.
There absolutely does. And that is where I think conservatives need to do a good job of recognizing what's at stake here and making sure they hold the feet of these Democrat politicians to the fire on this issue. Because what is happening is the clear will of the people. In every poll that was taken, immigration was number one or number two of a vast swath of this country at the last election cycle. This administration has a clear mandate to do it. And we can argue over the details of how it's communicated. I do think, unfortunately, the current administration is losing ground on some of the way it's communicated. But part of the reason for that is that Democrat lawmakers, nationally speaking, have refused to unify at all, even though this was the party line, if you will, even of the Democrat Party up until about 20 years ago, was that border safety and border security, that's a bipartisan issue.
It was important to them back then.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, Barack Obama was, during his presidency, people called him the deporter-in-chief because he recognized, look, I've got enough problems on my hands without dealing with the problems that our country shouldn't have to deal with. These people don't belong here. They're not here legally. We have an immigration system for a reason. My job as president is to enforce the law of this country, and I'm going to do it. So I think you see that complete political opportunism and that abject rejection of responsibility, frankly, to use their platform in a wise manner.
And they'll do it at the risk of hurting our country.
They will.
Yeah.
And we saw that with Renee Good. We saw that a woman who felt empowered to make very bad and dangerous decisions for herself because of the narrative and the lies that she had consumed. And that is a heartbreaking situation. There are kids without a mother now.
Yep.
But we have to recognize that in that circumstance, she made so many unwise decisions that led up to putting herself in the situation where she then, attempted violence against an officer, and she ends up heartbreakingly, unfortunately, passing away because of that. That's a sad thing. That is a sad situation, but it's there because of her decisions.
But she was, and this is what the left refuses to acknowledge, is that she was inches away from that ICE agent getting killed.
That's right.
Inches away.
That's right.
And if it was me, I'm not as agile as that guy. That guy was extremely agile to get out of the way. People don't realize that. You go back and watch the video, inches away from taking his life.
Right.
Or severely maiming him. Marc McMain show, Taylor Hawkins, talking about Minnesota, what's taking place up there. The other thing, you mentioned earlier, Taylor, about, watching the news, watching the media, and we do, and then we learn about the fraud. So in addition to the ICE campaign up there removing these violent criminals, we have the fraud issue that is in large part being executed by some of those from the Somali community. And so also Kristi Noem's come out and said, hey, we're going to deal with this as well. So they've uncovered about $19 billion in wrongdoing. This may even reach all the way up to the governor's office, right? There's people now asking for Walz to resign from his leadership position. But this is exactly what we want. We're sick and tired of hearing fraud taking place. And I don't care if it's at a county level, state level, federal level. We're sick and tired of hearing about it. and nothing gets done. Stuff is getting done now.
That's right. That's right.
And it's painful. It's not always easy.
Yep.
This is uncomfortable.
Yep. It is, and that is one of the vital, or the things that reminds us of the vital nature of truth, the importance of truth, because the truth is, it may sound compassionate to say, oh, I feel bad for the people who are employed by the government in XYZ capacity, but at the end of the day, we should be asking with all of these things, Elon Musk uncovered hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud. The question is not, does this money have the potential to help somebody somewhere, or are there going to be people who are laid off if we cut this funding? All of those questions. The question is this a legitimate form of government use of government money? Because there's no such thing as government money. As you know very well,
it's our money.
It's our money. It's the taxpayers' money. They have a stewardship responsibility over it as the ministers of government, and they should have a conscientious opinion of that. They should exercise it well, and they don't. And that's why it's so exciting to see when this fraud is unearthed, actually see kind of real impact and real change start to happen. I think we need to have a better understanding of that. Also, a more robust push to make sure that this fraud is rooted.
We're just sick of it. It's exhausting as taxpayers to find out that not just thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not just millions, 19 billion is being wasted or used, and some of that's going overseas, because if it is being perpetrated by people that are here illegally and they're sending that money back perhaps to Somalia, which is look like what's taking place in Minnesota, it is just enraging to think about that going on and right under our nose. And it's not going to stop with Minnesota. You're going to find that other states, as President Trump alluded to, they're going to shift gears and focus on California, and you're going to find out that it's taking place all over the place. And one thing I'll say we'll kind of close this segment with this. Going back to the ICE efforts to deport these violent criminal, illegal aliens, and to the Republicans that are getting a little bit weak-kneed on this, did you ever think this was going to be easy? This was not going to be easy.
That's right.
This is. Do you think they're just going to say, "Hey, I'm here, cuff me, take me home"? It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
And I get it. The optics aren't always great. There's going to be difficult moments. But if we had properly secured the border under Joe Biden, and if we had been making the efforts to continue the efforts of deporting those that shouldn't be here along the way, we wouldn't have this mess. So now you have this massive effort to get this done. It's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be painful.
It's one of the reasons why courage is such an essential character quality for anyone who asks for your vote, asks to be in a position of leadership, because it's what we need, and it's what is absolutely absent from the political class of this country, is the courage to continue doing the right thing even when it's hard.
And I knew this would be that situation. I remember telling my brother when President Trump was elected and talking about the deportation process and thinking, hey, if we're not careful, going back to the messaging in the White House, if we're not careful, this could be a Vietnam situation, right, where there's a lot of press showing the rough stuff, right? The things that are difficult to look at. And what we don't realize is, yes, there are going to be scenarios where it doesn't work great. There are scenarios where things don't perfectly handle. It's part of the process. This is ugly. It's tough work. But those are the limited situations. But what's going to happen is the left will capture those limited situations and then push them out as if this is what's going on everywhere. And that's not the case.
It's not. It's not. It's very important for us to understand that these are dangerous people. The administration has done a great job of targeting the most dangerous in this population. We still need to have a national conversation about what you do with the rest of them. I'm very pro legal immigration, but I also think we need to make sure that we're dealing with the problems of this country. But these are dangerous people. They need to leave, and our law enforcement men and women in uniform are doing a courageous job, and I'm very proud of them.
Here's just a quick little recap, Taylor, of a handful of people that they've removed. And no names given, according to the follow-up reporting, social media posts, just some of the ones that came from. And this was released by Kristi Noem's office. An individual from Iran convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm and linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps connection. So that's one of the guys. So imagine that. This is just a little small sampling, Taylor, of overall the hundreds of thousands that we've removed. A Liberian national with convictions for rape, robbery, sexual assault, and other violent offenses. An individual convicted of intentional murder of his own infant son. An Ecuadorian national charged with vehicular homicide related to the death of a Minnesota resident. and a Somali national with convictions including assault, fraud, robbery, and larceny. We don't want him here. If you are doing this, we don't want you here.
And that gets back to the political opportunism of the other side. Unfortunately, if you stuck a microphone in the face of any of these Democrat officials and asked if any of those actions are acceptable, they would have to say no. They would be forced to say no by all common sense. But they want to make political hay out of the deportation of these people, acting like they're just our friends and neighbors from down the street.
That's right. Just shameful. Marc McMain Show. We come back more with Taylor Hawkins.
Hey, this is Doug.
And this is Robbie.
We own and operate Foy Tree Service.
When you need tree cutting, stump grinding, lot clearing, mulching, firewood, and more, call Foy Tree Service.
Serving Morgan County and surrounding area since 1987.
With top quality service and fair prices, we take pride in our work, and we do everything to make sure that you are a happy customer.
That's Foy Tree Service. Call us at 706-342-8733.
That's 706-342-TREE.
AI now touches nearly every part of life, from writing articles to even driving cars. But it raises a deeper question. If we created AI, where did our intelligence come from? The Bible says it's a gift from God. He gave us the ability to think, reason, and make sense of the world. Some assume Christianity is just blind faith, believing something is true because the Bible says so. But that's not the case. Genuine faith invites tough questions. It engages the mind. As one pastor said, you don't have to give up your intellect to trust the Bible. You have to give up your pride. Real intelligence isn't just logic or knowledge. It's knowing the God who made you and loving Him with every part of who you are, including your mind. This is Bryant Wright. Really, Bryant Wright, not AI, speaking right from my heart.
Seeking spiritual truth? RightFromTheHeart.org has resources just for you.
Ready to grow your small business and reach thousands of new customers? Say hello to Town Values Magazine, formerly MTM Shopper, proudly serving the community for 22 years. Every month, thousands of magazines are mailed directly to homes in Walton, Oconee, Barrow, Rockdale, Newton, Gwinnett, and beyond to further expand your reach. Our magazine is packed with valuable coupons and services offered, helping families save money while supporting the community they love. We specialize in local direct marketing that works, building your brand, driving sales, and connecting you with the customers who matter most. Plus, we're online at townvalues.com and on Facebook and Instagram, giving your business even more exposure in print and digital. Ready to reserve your space in the next edition? Call Liliana at 770-267-6650. Town Values Magazine. Local, trusted, powerful, helping businesses grow and families save. If you're in the construction business, you're going to need a dumpster at some point in time, and that's why you need to call Atha Equipment Rental in Monroe, now offering 20 and 30-yard cans. Atha Equipment Rental now offers a complete line of landscape and construction equipment like tools, trenchers, floor sanders, jackhammers, and so much more, like rentals for your parties with tables, chairs, popcorn machines, Dunkin' booths, and more. Call Jason Atha at 770-207-6041. That's Atha Equipment Rental on East Spring Street in Monroe.
Serving Loganville and the surrounding area for over 25 years, it's the Main Street Barbershop, 305 Main Street next to Braxton's Auction in downtown Loganville, offering old-fashioned service and modern-day styles. Appointments available and walk-ins welcome. Open Tuesday through Saturday with a friendly staff and atmosphere. That's Main Street Barbershop in downtown Loganville. Call 770-554-3300 or go to mainstreetbarberloganville.com to learn more.
Double D Plumbing is a local, owned, licensed, and insured plumbing company in Loganville. You can reach Double D Plumbing at 770-466-8370. They have the ability to take on any plumbing job regardless of size or difficulty with experience in all phases of plumbing, including commercial and residential, tankless heaters, sewer cameras, and drain cleaning. Call Craig Shepard at 770-466-8370 or visit them on the web at ddplumbinggeorgia.com. You're going to like the way they flow.
Welcome back, Marc McMain, Taylor Hawkins. Taylor, that $19 billion sometimes can get lost.
That's right. And one of the things we were talking about during the break, Mark, is that people we hear a lot of numbers. We hear a lot of numbers in life and a lot of numbers on the news, and $19 billion can fly over our heads. But the reality is that the numbers in America are that the lifetime earning of an American citizen on average is $1.8 million. We trade our life in work. We trade our life for money.
That's right.
It's a resource exchange so that we can have the utility to go and do other things with our life. But what that means is that in hard facts, that $19 billion wasted is actually 10,555 lives lost, because that is the representative of the lifetime earnings of that number of American citizens. And it really puts it into perspective, I think.
Think if you're a citizen of Minnesota, how upset you must be. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. You have to be disgusted. Disgusted to know that has been pulled out of your financial system, and you've paid it.
That's right.
You paid into that. I'm assuming most of those would be state taxes.
Yep.
You paid into that. And it's gone. And it's not like you said earlier, it's not like it's gone and it's in your backyard. That $19 billion mostly is probably overseas.
That's right.
It's been shipped out of the country. You should be livid with everybody, but especially your leader, your Tim Walz. Good Lord. This dude is almost the VP of our country.
That's right. That's right. It shows you the level of corruption on display. But that's one of the reasons that I'm passionate about economic issues and why people at home should be too, because we're talking about lives. The money that Congress spends, the money that your local state spends, we have to have a better understanding of the stewardship over that money, because that is representative of the lives of your citizens.
Taylor, did you follow this church disruption? This took place, I guess there was maybe a couple places it happened, but the big one was it was an anti-ICE protest. So a group stormed a church this past Sunday at the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Again, in Minnesota, St. Paul, is that whole area is the epicenter for this taking place. They disrupted the service and they started shouting phrases like "ICE out," "Justice for Renee Good." I guess they tried to connect that the pastor of this church was a pro-ICE pastor. I don't even know how they would have made that connection. But have you followed this at all?
I have. Apparently, and I'm not exactly sure. I didn't fact check this before we turn the mics on. But I have been told that one of the elders actually works for ICE in some capacity at this church. So maybe that was the reason this church was targeted specifically. But regardless of what it is, this is an unconscionable overstepping of what people see to be a misunderstanding of free speech, of public spaces in general, and it's really sad to see.
It is, and I guess, again, I'm not going to jump to judgment on this. I know the church had to be just overwhelmed with what took place. I've seen little snippets of the video of what went on. We're now learning that some of the protesters are these are professional protesters. These are professional organizers that go and they do this. I think one of the guys has done this exact thing at other churches. He went to the Christ Church in Washington, D.C., which is attended by Pete Hegseth, and he did a similar type of deal there. So this is what he does. He goes into churches and basically bombs the show, right?
Right.
What I find, how do I say this? I think the church was probably taken aback, and they actually ended the service. The members went home. My brother and I were talking about this last night, and I know there's the phrase, my brother even references that meek shall inherit the earth, but I think people misinterpret what meek means.
Yes, they do.
Meek is not being a coward.
Nope.
And I think there's a time and place where if you have this go on in your church, maybe a different reaction is in order. Maybe grabbing these people by the bootstraps and chucking them out of the building would have been more appropriate.
It's fascinating that you bring up that verse, Mark, because the word translated meek in the Bible actually means literally a sheathed sword. You cannot be a meek man if you are a weak man, because that means you have no sword to sheathe. It's this idea of strength under control, under God's control. But there are very concrete ways in which God calls men in leadership to exercise strength in a meaningful way. One of those is his call on government. Government's an institution of God. It's to protect the good and to punish the evil. And this circumstance, there is evil being perpetrated, there's disruption happening, and yes, I absolutely agree with you. Again, it's not in any way to cast judgment on these churches. They're experiencing this.
Yeah, I don't know what they were going. That had to be an alarming situation, right? So I get it. It's easy to sit back and quarterback the day later and say, oh, you should have, da-da-da-da. But at some point, I would like to see that churches are not soft targets.
Well, it's important to think about and talk about, not because we're casting judgment, but to recognize, look, this is probably something we're going to continue to see.
It's not the last time it's going to happen.
Family Research Council of D.C. has listed, they've got incredible, for anyone who wants to check out the real data, incredible data on the rise in violence against churches across the country. It is sickening. I mean, in just the last 5 years, we've gone from just under 100 attacks against churches to over 500 attacks, I think, last year against churches. And that's everything from arson to riots to firebombing. I mean, it's a dangerous situation, unfortunately, that we see ourselves in. So church officials, church leadership, I should say, they have to take this threat seriously, and they need to come up with a plan to, how am I going to protect my church body from this? If God forbid this happens to us, what's going to be the plan?
Have you seen the video of the guy going back to the word meek and knowing when to sheathe your sword or when to draw your sword? It's a video, and I do not like seeing videos of people getting beat up. I just don't like it. I don't care who it is, if it's left, it's right. It's just not. I don't have an appetite for it. But this particular one actually was interesting because you had a guy that was carrying an American flag and he was being harassed. I guess he had his own bullhorn where he was doing his thing, and then a bunch of protesters, leftists, were in his ear with a bullhorn and just antagonizing him and antagonizing him. Have you seen this video?
I have.
And then finally he hits the breaking point, and it turns out the dude has a left hook that would make Muhammad Ali envious.
Just drops. 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah. I mean, that's but what I'm watching this guy, and I'm watching how he took every step possible to avoid conflict, right? And again, I've only seen a piece of it, so I haven't seen the whole thing. Maybe the guy was the jerk, I don't know. But the piece that I saw, he was really trying to avoid conflict. And so it's I don't want to see the churches become violent. That's not what I'm suggesting by any means, but you have a right to worship.
That's right.
It's protected.
That's right.
And if somebody comes in and disrupts that, I think you have a right to chuck them out.
You do. Legally speaking, churches are recognized under our Constitution as private spaces open to the public.
Yeah.
What that means is the property itself is private, and you have the right to control who steps foot on that property and who doesn't. These people have no business doing what they're doing. We don't go to places of other religions at all in this country. It is not allowable under any circumstances to disrupt their worship service and their private property. So this is not only is this wrong ethically and morally speaking, this is illegal. This is actually against the law, and churches have every right to both formulate a policy on this as well as to enforce that. And I think church leaders need to wrestle with that and need to understand that they should probably have a good idea of what their church's response is going to be. Because I actually think, I mean, it was sad to see. It was a disruption for sure, but it was actually relatively tame compared to some of the things like we talked about. I mean, there have been fire bombings and
really violent stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Sad to see the direction our country's going.
Marc McMain, Taylor Hawkins, what the disgraced former CNN host Don Lemon also appeared at this event, which was bizarre because here he is and he's starting to interview the pastor right in the middle of this, or at the conclusion of this protest when they stormed the church. And he's kind of making, I just happened to be here. You just happened to be in the neighborhood, figured I'd stop in. Right. So now it's looking like he was actually possibly part of the organization. They're saying he could face criminal charges for him betting himself with the anti-ICE protesters because of what you just said. That this was a law that was broken.
Exactly.
And so,
and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a righteous thing to see people who commit crimes punished and to talk about that publicly, because the Bible talks about the importance of making sure that the law is enforced in a way that the conscience of men's hearts sees and is convicted by. It's a very important thing. It's a biblical thing.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him when he participates in law-breaking activity. Anyone who does that publicly, they should face retribution.
There's a thought that the riots that are taking place up there, we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. They're not being properly covered by the leftists or the your standard media. And I think this is also this reminds me of 2020, the summer of 20, the affectionately known the summer of love, when riots were taking place all across our country, and you had those on the left basically justifying it in some cases or downplaying it, I think we have a similar situation here, Taylor.
You absolutely do. And of course, you have the classic moment that everyone has repeated a million times, the fiery but mostly peaceful protest said by a CNN anchor as there is literally a building burning down behind him.
Yeah.
Acting like this is okay. This is, it's mostly peaceful. We just have some people committing violent assault against others and some people burning buildings down. The rest of it's just fine.
If you think for a second that the mainstream media is unbiased, the best example I can give you is at any given moment throughout your day, open up your phone, your smartphone, and look at the news stories that are embedded in your phone, right? That are kind of in your homepage that I don't even think you get to maybe there's some way I can get in my settings and remove those. But these are your typical news networks that give you the top 5 to 10 headlines of the day. At any given time, I want you to do this as a little project for you. Do it 5 times throughout the week, any given time, and watch and see how many of them are anti-Trump or anti-Republican.
Yeah, it's not an accident. It's not an accident. The reality is, for people listening, I'm sure many of you have a biblical worldview that there are forces at work in our country who want to tear down anything righteous, who want to destroy the vestiges of Christianity in this country, and who attack an administration that is, broadly speaking, I don't agree with everything Trump does. I don't think everything he does is Christian or is supported by Christian values, but a majority of it certainly is. And it's good to see the ways he's taken strong stances in many cases. But the reality is that this is a spiritual battle, and if I could leave the audience with a bit of a more positive note as well, is to make sure people understand, look, there are things that you can do. There are ways that you can push back against the darkness. We've talked a lot about bad news today because it's important. It's in the news, needs to be discussed. But look, there are ways that you can continue following the Lord in your personal life, in your community, continue having a positive impact, and be a part of the change that sweeps this nation. Most of these people, these anti-ICE protesters, people like Renee Good, they are normal folks in some ways, and they're around normal people in their communities. And I always think about, what if this person in this circumstance on the news, what if they had 1 or 2 more people who loved them enough to step into their life and be honest with them about the dangerous direction their life was taking before it was tragically ended? Always think about that.
That's right. Marc McMain, Taylor Hawkins. Got time for one more little one more little subject for us to cover here, Taylor. So last year, Texas lawmakers passed the 10 Commandments law last year, which Governor Abbott signed into law, mandating classrooms to display the 10 Commandments statewide, which I think is a wonderful thing. If you remember, it wasn't long ago that, I guess, late 60s when they removed prayer from school as we know it. So now there's an effort to remove this law and remove the 10 Commandments. I think it's a good thing. I love that the 10 Commandments are part of the public school system. Regardless of what you believe, they're good commandments. Just something to live your life by, even if you're a non-believer. So once again, I just find it interesting that this is where they want to put their energy, that they want to remove something that does that. What are the 10 Commandments? These are good things to live your life by.
That's right. And it's fascinating to see as well. It's not to make a point in support of some sort of vague ecumenicalism, but the reality is that most, if not all, of the 10 Commandments are reiterated in all of the world's major religions. These are not things they are specific to Christianity in the way they are phrased.
Right.
And Judeo-Christianity, Judaism as well, of course. But this is an example of the way the law of God is written on man's hearts. That all truth is God's truth. So we should not be afraid of pointing out truth, even if it's a part of another religion, and to build off of that to pull someone towards Christianity. But specifically with regard to our country, we have a history that is built upon these commandments in a specific, real way. 80% of those human beings alive at the founding of our country had a Bible in their home.
Think of that.
It's astonishingly high literacy rate for the time across the world. It was because of their Christianity. It was because Christianity has shaped this nation. Everything we do as a nation, all of our broader norms, politically speaking, even to the way our government was built, are built off of Christian principles. And so to recognize that and to put up the 10 Commandments in a public schoolhouse should be a laudable thing. It should honestly be a bipartisan thing. Of course, we're not surprised that it's not.
Right. I'd love to see this go nationwide. Be a lot of fun.
Me too.
Taylor, what's next for you, buddy? What do you got going on?
God's keeping me really busy. It's been a lot of fun the last couple of months. Been able to visit with a lot of different people in different parts of the world. Came back from a Central American mission trip.
I've seen you. I've followed you on social media. You've been traveling all over the place.
God's been good. I've got an exciting period of travel. I've been able to minister to a lot of people and to expand different, work with people who are in politics and ministry and just in normal life, trying to increase the impact that they can have, increase their personal ability to follow God with all their heart.
So now you're settled down here. You got to make some bank.
That's right. Exactly right.
Got to pay them bills. It always comes back to paying those bills. Taylor, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a blessing.
Absolutely. Chastity, what's in store for us tomorrow?
Oh, sorry. So tomorrow we have Mr. Chuck Horton and in-studio guest Mr. Gary Wilson.
Yep, and I think we just got notification that Gary might have the flu.
Maybe.
Ooh,
so I'm
the
not
flu
sure
is still
if he'll
going
be in
around.
the studio, so actually.
Gary's a good friend of mine. This is going to be fun. We got to reschedule him because Gary is going to be. It's just a great, good old-fashioned small business success story, and I can't wait for the listeners to hear his journey. When I met this young man, he was 19 years old. I had just started my magazine. Liliana had just started the magazine maybe a couple years prior to. He was 19 years old, and he had started a weed treatment company called All-Turf. This is where, when you get the nice green lawn, they come in and they spray it to be sure it stays green and kills all the weeds. And he was spraying weeds himself when I met him. He was All-Turf. He was everything. And he built that to an incredible enterprise. And so I love these stories, and these stories are replicated over and over in the people that we know in our community that have just done good things. They've built businesses that provide fantastic jobs, great careers for people. So I can't wait for him to come in and share a story. But if he's got the flu, we don't want him in here.
Hope he feels better soon.
Yeah, we don't need him barfing all over the studio.
No, so.
We just cleaned this place up for the First Lady.
Right.
Yeah.
Spick and span.
Yeah. Got to keep it clean for a while.
Exactly.
That'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. Folks, hope you enjoyed the show today. Again, Taylor, thank you for joining us. Yes. We'll be back on tomorrow at noon. Until then, everybody stay safe.
This is Q92.3 WMOQ